Hello everyone, my name is Gerard Furi, and today I would like to talk about the very serious topic of suicide, particularly within a spiritual context. So I do want to say at the start of this video, I consider myself a little bit of a realist when it comes to this topic in question. And by that, what I mean is people's life situations can get extremely tough and harsh and difficult, and telling someone to think positive or to just keep going and that things will get better, giving people just positive advice isn't always going to work, because when it comes down to it, life situations can fall apart and we can feel like there is no more meaning to life at all and there is no point in continuing. There is only suffering in life, so why even try? It can almost seem like a logical decision to just end everything. It was quite interesting but sad. A few weeks ago now, for whatever reasons, I was talking to a homeless person. And this person, he was probably in his late 40s. He wasn't in good health. He actually had COVID recently. His teeth weren't in good health. He was an alcoholic. I think he might have been a bit of a heroin addict as well, or he's used heroin in the past. And he was thinking of committing suicide through taking too much heroin. And when I was talking to this person, it was quite strange actually. Between me and the homeless person, because we were talking over a path at the beach, between us, on this path, a beautiful family walked past. A beautiful, handsome two men, two beautiful women, and they both had children in their prams. And those people, they seemed like they had everything anyone could ever want in life. They were good looking. They were seemingly wealthy, or well off at least. They met the love of their lives. They married, they have children. Everything is perfect. But across from that beautiful scene that just passed through us was this homeless person who very likely had hopes and dreams, but he was getting a little bit old. He was addicted to alcohol. It was really hard to look someone in the eye like that, honestly, and say that everything is just going to be okay. And when I found out that this person was thinking of wanting to commit suicide, I can understand where they are coming from. And that is what I mean by that I am a little bit of a realist on this topic of suicide. Now, I also don't have a magic solution to curing this problem if it needs curing or solving it. I think deep down we all know that suicide isn't a good thing, and certainly I don't want anyone, including that homeless person, to actually follow through with physically killing themselves. So today I want to share really my only good piece of advice that I think I have to offer. I haven't heard anyone talk about this before, so maybe it's good that I offer it. The genuine idea that I have is when we are thinking of suicide, this is such a radical, big, extreme decision. It is one of the most extreme decisions that a human being can make. And the reason that someone can be tempted to make such a decision is because their life, it feels like it has no meaning, there's only suffering here. And there's this temptation, there is this strong temptation to wipe everything clean. You've got a dirty table in front of you, it's just a huge mess, it seems like there's no solution, we just want to wipe everything clean. And indeed, suicide, it can sort of, in a way, be a solution just to end the whole mess of life. But what I want to suggest is there's other radical big things you can do to totally wipe the table clean that is not physically killing yourself. And that is what I would strongly encourage you instead to contemplate if you are struggling with this topic. Now, most definitely one radical thing I would not recommend is to take any sort of hard drug that can be addictive or is just an escape, a very temporary escape from all your problems. That ultimately is a downward spiral that just gets worse and worse and worse. So definitely, just to start things off, I would never recommend doing a hard drug. Anything that's addictive, even marijuana or alcohol, those things all do not help resolve life's problems. If you want to really wipe the table clean in a very radical way, what I would suggest is you do something that is very healthy and spiritual even. So really, I just want to give some examples of what that could be, but you can think of your own ones. For me, what these might be is to go traveling, let's say, to India. Not even travel, a pilgrimage. You can even get a one-way ticket. Just leave your old life behind, buy a ticket to somewhere spiritual that you have an attraction to, and just go there with no plan in mind. Don't even think about your life. Everything, you just throw it out of the window and you go to a sacred place that you resonate with, that you want to go to, that deep down inside tells you that could be a good place to be. Now, I'll give some specific examples. There is this very famous mountain in the Himalayas called Kailash. If you read online about people's experiences at Kailash, it's very fascinating and interesting. I've never been there. It's very cold there, of course. It's not easy to get to. If you want to have the authentic experience, you might walk there as well, do a multi-day hike. And this is not a little thing you do. It seems quite radical and extreme for the average person, perhaps if you're having a tough life, to just quit your job and buy a one-way ticket and go see this mountain. If you want, if Kailash doesn't resonate with you particularly, there is this other very famous mountain called the Sacred Peaks of Girnar, which is also in India. I hope I pronounced it right. And this is the opposite of Kailash in a sense. Because Kailash, it's very cold, it's in the Himalayas, it's very high up. But the Sacred Peaks of Girnar are in a very, very hot tropical climate. So if you're going to be climbing those peaks, it might not take days, you can do it in a single day. But again, you need to go, get your whole life to India, throw everything, all this mess that you have in life, whether it's personal, social, complications, throw it all out the window and just go and experience a sacred site. Or another option, another mountain or a hill in this case, is go to Arunachala Hill and walk around it every day for a month. That can just be your single-minded vision. And these things, they might seem a little bit like they're not really going to help. But read online about people's spiritual experiences when they visit places like that. People have really transformative experiences doing this. And if I just put myself in your shoes, doing something like that, it's a big step. It's radical. It's kind of inconvenient to plan it all out. But in another way, this is also the point. Contemplating suicide, at first it's just a thought. It can even be a logical thought like, what's the point to life? I'm not really doing much here. There's some suffering involved. Why even live? I could just commit suicide. That's just a thought. But the more the mind entertains that thought, every time we have difficult, heavy, dark emotions, that thought becomes closer and closer to a reality. So what I would suggest is to totally throw that thought out of your mind to commit suicide, if that's something you're struggling with. Instead, when you're feeling heavy, dark emotions like there's only suffering, there's no meaning, contemplate doing something radical like buying a one-way ticket to India and walking around a mountain, as crazy as that sounds. It doesn't need to be in India, it can be any deep spiritual healthy thing that resonates with you. Perhaps you want to go and buy a one-way ticket to the Amazon rainforest and do a very authentic ayahuasca ceremony for a month. Or perhaps you want to do what are those things called? Those totally dark rooms. Is it called a dark room? You could do a month-long dark room experience. Or you could go to North America, if this really resonates with you, and do a 5-MeO DMT sacred ceremony there as well. You can read online about huge transformative experiences that people have from doing things like that. Now, all of this is not to say that I recommend that when people have a tough time in life, they just quit everything and go doing one of these radical things. And you can do these radical things even if it just resonates with you. You don't need to, of course, be contemplating suicide. All I'm saying, really, that's the core of this topic, is people, when they're struggling with suicide, it's because they have deep suffering and no meaning in their life. And when you're at that stage, thinking positively might not help. You want to find some big action that you can do that will hopefully wipe everything clean, remove all of life's problems. And to some people, the only way out seems to be suicide, but there are many other radical options you can do. You can, even something as simple as selling all your possessions, buying a one-way ticket to a foreign country with nothing but your guitar. Let's say you're a musician. Just go and travel the world. That's very radical, and you're going to be leaving your whole life behind. Something else you can do as well, and I don't recommend anyone just do this, but it's a lot better than suicide. You can become a sadhu in India. It's a very interesting topic, these sadhus. You get all sorts of different sects as well. But when you become a sadhu, there's actually a ceremony involved where you bury yourself or you cremate yourself and you change your name because you're literally leaving your old life behind and you're entering into a new mystical world, the world of the sadhus. I don't think we should all become sadhus at a whim, but if you're really struggling with life, if you want to end it all, don't physically end it. Go sell everything, remove your name, even change your name, and go become a sadhu in India, or go become a monk. Whatever you like. Change everything up, move cities. You can contemplate any radical thing to clear the table, clear the mess of life. But I would just recommend throw out this thought of suicide. It doesn't really help anyone at all, and it is really never the solution. So I'm genuinely, as I'm making this video, addressing someone that could be in the depths of struggling with this topic. Or maybe you're watching this because someone close to you is thinking about suicide. So when someone is in a position like that, they usually don't want to hear about hypothetical spiritual concepts. But this is one important concept that I will mention. This is the concept of reincarnation and the afterlife, really. None of us, or maybe very few of us, really know for sure what happens when we die. If I had to bet money on it, I would say reincarnation is true. And this whole theory of karmic evolution and karmic reincarnation. So this is important because if you are suffering in life for whatever reason, that means karma has arisen. If we just commit suicide, that karma doesn't go away. And in fact, it will resurface in another life. And suicide causes a lot of pain to everyone involved. So that is actually creating a lot of more negative karma. It's much better that you do something like renunciate your life and become a monk or become a sadhu, deal with that karma, throw the karma out of the window, and enter mystical, profound, even enlightened states of consciousness through a years-long process. It is actually a bit of a famous irony. You hear this from many spiritual people and enlightened people as well, from now and back in time as well, that people actually find deep spirituality, or they find Christ, they can find God, the Buddha, or a Shiva, any godly energy that you like. People find these deep enlightenment states and states of awakening through deep pain and suffering sometimes. Because people who have an easy life, they just go through life, 80 years just pass like that. They get an education, they go to work, they have kids, and before you know it, you're old. But some people, they experience something in life that causes so much suffering or so jarring that it forces them to wake up a little bit and see that this life, it's very temporary and there is a lot of suffering involved. And if you feel like that, it's not unnatural or bad. This is actually, in a very real way, the core teaching of Buddhism. The first speech that the Buddha gave, as the stories go, after the Buddha became enlightened, is he gave his teachings on dukkha, or his teachings on suffering, which is to say that the vast majority of life is suffering. And this is why it's good to take up a deep spiritual practice.